Hi, welcome back to my little corner of the internet. Today we'll be making this farmer pig. This is my interpretation of a very popular game character that got us through the pandemic. So come and join me. For a list of materials and tools, see the description box below, and let's get started. We're going to start with the kimono, and we're going to start with a row 1 with chain 33. To start row 2, we're going to work on the second stitch from the hook, and we're just going to do single crochet in all stitches. You should have 32 stitches at the end. Before we continue to row 3, we're just going to chain 1 and then turn. For row 3, we're going to start with 6 single crochets, and then we're going to chain 6, and we're going to connect that chain back to the kimono on the 7th stitch. We're just going to do a single crochet, and that creates a hole to create a sleeve later. Then you're going to continue with another 7 single crochet. Next, we're going to chain 6 again to make the second sleeve, and then we're going to do the same thing what we did before and skip 6 stitches on the project and single crochet back onto the 7th to connect the sleeve. To finish off, we're going to do 4 single crochets, and then in the last stitch you're going to do an increase. You should have 33 stitches at the end of this row. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 4, we're going to do single crochet and all stitches. You should have 33 stitches at the end. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 5, we're going to do 32 single crochet, and on the last stitch, you'll do an increase. You should have 34 stitches at the end of this row. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 6, we're going to do 2 half double crochet, and then we're going to do an increase with a half double crochet. You're going to do this pattern 11 times, and then we're going to finish it off with 1 single half double crochet. You should end up with 45 stitches at the end of this row. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 7, we're going to do 45 half double crochet, and then we're going to end it off with a half double crochet increase. You should have 46 stitches in the end. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 8, we're going to do 2 half double crochet, and then we're going to do a increase with half double crochet. We should do this pattern 15 times, and then we're going to finish it off with 1 half double crochet. You should have 61 stitches at the end of this row. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 9, we're going to do 60 half double crochet, and then on the final stitch, we're going to do a increase with a half double crochet. You should have 62 stitches at the end of this row. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 10 to 11, we're going to do a half double crochet in all stitches. You should have 62 stitches at the end of each row. Before we cut a long tail for sewing, I'm just gonna give a fit check and see if it fits our doll. If you find that it's too short, add an extra row or two. Your kimono should just let the toes of the dolls peek out just a little bit. Once you determine it's the right length, cut a long tail for sewing. Next, we're going to do the sleeves. You're going to take your piece of yarn and you're going to do a slip knot, and then we're going to join it by doing a single crochet all along the chain that we made in our kimono. So for row 1, we're going to be doing single crochet with 16 stitches. For row 2 and 3, we're just going to do single crochet in all stitches. You should have about 16 stitches at the end of each round. For row 4, we're just finish it off with a slip stitch. Then we're going to cut a long tail and we're going to weave that tail into the sleeve. To better secure the tail, I'm just going to take apart this thread, and I'm going to take one of these threads and weave it through a stitch. Then I'm going to use the other threads and tie it together to securely place it. Next, we're going to make the apron. For row 1, we're going to do chain 13. Working on the second stitch from the hook, we're going to do single crochet in all stitches. You should have 12 stitches in the end. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. For row 3, we're going to do single crochet and then an increase. We're going to do this pattern 4 times and end up with 16 stitches in the end. Again, before we start the next row, we're just going to chain 1. From row 4 to 10, we're going to do single crochet in all stitches. You should end up with 16 stitches at the end of each row. I'm going to finish the remaining rounds off camera. I'll see you back at the end of row 10. Once you finish, we're going to cut a long tail for sewing. With the ends, we're going to just weave it up to the top like so. Next, we're going to take some white yarn. We're going to make the details on the aprons. For this character, they had kind of like a hashtag looking design on their aprons. So I'm just going in and sewing that hashtag into the apron. For the vertical lines, I spaced them with 1 stitch in between. I'm freezing this frame so you can use this as a reference to where the hashtags are. Go ahead and pause the video so you can keep using this as a reference. To finish off, we're just going to tie the two ends together so that it doesn't unravel. That's it for this tutorial. We'll continue on next week. Please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!